Greetings, adventurers! This is Lorne, your guild advisor, and this is the final story discussion for the finale of Astrea Record in DanMemo, extra story included. I apologize for the long wait, but you should look forward to the coming weeks as I'll be doing my best to pump out DanMachi content in preparation for Season 3, which starts airing on October 2nd. For Astrea Record Ultimate Clash, I'll be focusing the discussion on the more important events in the story, particularly around Zard, Alfia, and Erebus. I'll mention some of my favorite scenes as well, but since this event is so massive, I won't be able to acknowledge everything about the event, but if you want to discuss your favorite parts of the event or how they might relate to DanMachi in general, feel free to voice your thoughts in the comments. Remember that not everyone is a light novel reader, so if you plan to mention aspects of the DanMachi story that have not yet been covered in the anime, make sure to mark it as spoilers. In this video, I'll do my best to be as vague as possible when discussing elements that relate to the light novels not yet adapted. With that out of the way, let's go over how the adventurers of 7 years ago triumphed over absolute malevolence. The third part of Astrea Record opens with Arario making preparations for the final clash against the evils. Citizens are relocated, a barrier is being prepared around Babel Tower, and most notably, Astrea Familia is being outfitted for the final battle. This is where we see the creation of Ryu's signature weapon, Alf's Lumina, made from a magic branch originating from Ryu's home elven forest. It's not yet the final product, but Ryu will carry it alongside Artie's sword and Will into battle. The name of Ryu's new sword comes from Astrea, Alf's Lumina meaning the light of a fairy. Fairy is referencing Ryu, as the DanMachi franchise likes referring to elves as fairies occasionally. Bells reference both Ryu and Alfia as fairy-like in appearance. I voiced this before, but I absolutely love Ryu's outfit in this event and her ponytail look, which gives off the impression she's channeling a tiny bit of her Captain Elise as well. If you look at her outfit story in the game, you'll find a fun scene with Astrea Familia with the confirmation that both Ryu and Eyes have been progressing as adventurers at about the same rate. The end of this event marks the stage where both become level 4. We also see just how much Ryu values her friendship with Osfi, dating back to where Osfi showcased absolute faith in Ryu in part 2 of the event. We're brought back to present day, where we are teased about the fact that Osfi still has the battle garments that Ryu wore from back then, and Osfi says that she'll wait for when Ryu feels like she is ready to accept them back. Being a light novel reader just makes me really wonder, oh the implications. Finn's plan calls for Astrea Familia to be the ones who deal with the nightmare alongside Gareth, Riveria, and Eyes as reinforcements, as Finn correctly suspects that Zard or Alfia will be in the dungeon as well. The entrance to the dungeon is guarded and being monitored, but Finn can't deny the possibility that the evils have a way to get inside. Something that Valletta mentions as Gnosis is particularly suspicious. There's a fun scene between Ryu and Eyes as they are going through the dungeon where Eyes seems to recognize Ryu's voice, recalling the time where they fought under the cover of darkness. Ryu successfully fools Eyes into thinking they fought over potato snacks, an excuse I honestly would not be surprised would still be successful in the present day. Back on the surface, the evil's attack is being headed by Valletta, while the adventurers are naturally being commanded by Finn. We can see that Valletta is constantly outsmarted by Finn, and it's easy to see why she hates him so much. Her voice actress Yu Kobayashi does an incredible job with her, particularly with her screams. No. Olivus himself doesn't do too much here, but he is leading a part of the evils. After the evils lose in this event, Olivus still is up to no good, but we know through Sword of Retoria that he will of course later perish and then be resurrected through a magic stone, only to be killed by Rebus in the events that transpire. One aspect that source readers will appreciate are references to names like Jura, and how Valletta surprised the adventurers with tame monsters in this event. We see that Ganesh and Familia aren't the only ones who have the ability to become tamers. Later on, when Valletta is slightly worried about the fight between Zard and Ottarl, she makes the rash decision to release all the monsters the evils have left towards Babel. This is where the veteran adventurers come in. I appreciate that we got to know some of the older members of Loki Familia, and that this is a true passing of the torch towards Finn and the other Familias. The veterans who are well past their prime are starting to slow due to age of their bodies, are able to take one last stand and protect Arario in their own way. It's also satisfying seeing that Alan of all people, the grumpy catboy that he is, also honored the sacrifice of the veterans by really going to town, as he defended the area outside Ottarl's battle with Zard. We truly get to see why Alan is referred to as the chariot of Freya Familia. He's not known as the fastest adventurer for nothing. There's also a fun dialogue between himself and Freya in Freya's new outfit quest. The highlight is Freya mentioning that Alan's sister Anya will be safe at the tavern owned by Mia, former captain of Freya Familia. Alan says he couldn't care less in typical Alan fashion, but Freya urges Alan to make sure to protect the city well enough so that she won't have to find the body of her favorite stray cat. Alan replies that that's his only goal, so if we believe that Freya is referring to Anya as the stray cat, then it looks like Alan really does care, even if he won't admit it. It's a shame that we didn't actually get a new adventure unit for Alan in the game, but at least his assist appropriately has the highest agility stat. That brings us to one of the main highlights of the event, the fight between Zard and Ottarl. I don't know how Omori-sensei, the author of the DanMachi series and this event, does it, but even the lead up to the fight felt epic. Valletta was trying to overthink the purpose of the barrier around Babel, when the actual plan was rather simple. The best way to minimize the amount of people needed to deal with Zard was to bait him into the barrier and fight with just one lone adventurer, Ottarl. The reason why Ottarl is able to overcome this trial is because he knows the taste and humiliation of defeat. He's able to withstand Zard's attacks not just because of his own desire to become stronger, but because for the first time, he fought for someone other than his goddess. He took upon himself the hopes and wills of the adventurers of Arario who believed in his victory. Ottarl even figured out what Zarb was trying to do for Arario, become a stepping stone for Arario to triumph over. There's an interesting bit of lore teased when Ottarl mentions that Zard is trying to do what Maxim did 8 years ago. Now I'm curious on who Maxim was. We also learned that Zarb was the one who dealt the final blow against the behemoth 10 years ago, and to achieve a level of power to do so, he had to use his skill which allows him to increase his status by eating. In this particular case, he ate some of the flesh of the behemoth, which we know to be poisonous from the Grand Day event. Though Grand Day itself is not canon, there's context from the event where the pseudo-behemoth in it inherits traits from the original behemoth, which is why special armor had to be made for eyes to defeat it. It's truly fascinating how Omori-sensei is able to connect elements from even non-canon events and make them relevant for ones that are. This is how we know that Zard is basically living on borrowed time, and he ultimately decided to use the opportunity to become a trial for Arario, to prepare them for the eventual encounter with the Black Apocalypse, the Black Dragon, the last great quest. The new top dogs of Arario, Finn and Notaro, looked up to Zeus and Hera Familia, but now was finally the time to surpass them. We get a reveal of what seems to be a magic or skill of Ottarl, Hilda's Vinni, which borrows its name from Norse mythology, being a name for Freya's boar. Familia Chronicle episode Freya is not yet officially translated, but is set to release in October, so we'll probably see official confirmation on the skill there, since I know Ottarl's status page is on the back of it. I wish there could have been illustrations for the fights against Alfia, the Nightmare, and even Finn's attack on Valletta, but I'm happy we got an amazing illustration of a triumphant Ottarl. It's great to see the event that propelled him to level 7, where he officially became the Conqueror, the King of Arario. On the other front of the event, we have the encounter between Astrea Familia and Alfia. The odds do not look great for the Familia of Justice, since they are 11 people strong with only the top members being level 3, going up against the level 7 juggernaut that is Alfia. She rarely uses weapons, and when she does, she's absolutely terrifying. She disarms Ai's with ease, and it felt almost disturbing seeing someone else use Ai's signature weapon, Desperate, while also emulating one of Zard's moves. Alfia is truly the personification of talent itself, but we later found out that talent came at a huge cost. She has a deadly disease which causes her to cough up blood, especially after exerting herself for an extended period of time. She's able to deliver powerful blows of magic with her quick trigger spell Gospel, and reflect magic with her Silentium Eden enchantment. But if she's forced into a war of attrition, she will eventually wear out. Astrea Familia is able to overcome impossible odds through carrying on the wills of others and believing in justice as they fight for the future as they rally behind Ryu. They made the necessary preparations for Alfia with their magic armor and the help from various protection magic Veil Breath. They overcame Alfia's ultimate magic, Genos Angelus, which was also used to defeat Leviathan by making use of the Aegis, a shield inherited by Hermes from Zeus, which is modified by Osphey and Subiki, countering the magic due to the planning of Lyra and Finn. Ottarl was able to overcome Zard by relying on his own desire to become stronger while carrying on the hopes of those who believed in him, while Astrea Familia defeated Alfia through the efforts of multiple adventurers combined with their own resolve. I feel like I'd give anything to see these fights against Zard and Alfia properly animated. The fight against Alfia was impressive enough for all the members of Astrea Familia to increase their level by 1. We don't know the exact levels for all the members of Astrea Familia, but Elise, Ryu, and Kaguya are the strongest members who become level 4, and Lyra becomes level 3. Good thing Astrea decided to come down into the dungeon, as they'll need those levels for the final encounter, the Nightmare. Erebus names this beast Delphine, which is actually the name of a monstrous serpent killed by Apollo in Greek mythology. Something tells me that the Apollo in DanMachi would not be as responsible for something so noble. The Nightmare is a monster created by the dungeon in response to the presence of a god's arcanum being present within the dungeon. Its appearance is that of a dragon, much to the dismay of Eyes, who despises the black dragon, as you can see in Season 2 of DanMachi. This makes the 9-year-old Eyes go berserk and immediately activate her wind skill Ariel, along with something else that turns her wind a distinct black color. It's a very uncomfortable violent wind that even makes Desperate, which is supposed to be an unbreakable Durandal type weapon, start cracking. During Astrea Familia's fight against Alfia, Riveria and Gareth hold back the Nightmare alongside Eyes, and that's pretty much all they can manage to do since it's constantly regenerating. It's not until Astrea Familia joins back in, healed up from Astrea's elixirs and freshly leveled up, that they can start truly going on the offensive. There's a sweet scene between Ryu, Elise, and Eyes, where first Ryu has to snap Eyes out of her berserk type state by slapping her on the head. Must have got that tip from Riveria. Elise then convinces Eyes to cooperate with them after saying that if Eyes gets seriously injured, she may not be able to eat potato snacks. Seriously, I think we can use potato snacks to even trick the present day Eyes. Astrea Familia was initially picked to deal with the Nightmare without both Riveria and Gareth, so it's no surprise that the combined power of a freshly leveled up Astrea Familia, Eyes, Riveria, and Gareth are able to take down the Nightmare without too much hardship. One could argue that it's underwhelming for the final battle of the story, but there is a moment of hype when they actually play the opening theme of the event during the battle itself. Plus, I'm glad most of the attention was focused on Zard and Alfia, since they are the most interesting aspects of this story, as those two are much more important when it comes to relevance to the canon of DanMachi as a whole. The Nightmare is defeated, and Finn manages to chase off Valletta with his Hellfinnegus, which normally puts him in a berserk state with Clouded Judgment, but he's able to control it by somewhat channeling his fury at Valletta. The attack on Horario is stopped, and justice triumphs over evil. Finn, Riveria, and Gareth become level 6, and Eyes, like Ryu, becomes level 4, the two still progressing at the same rate, but we know that Ryu's progress will be halted due to later events. Besides Otaro's level increase to 7, it seems that many of the other members of Freya Familia did as well, with Alan, Hogni, and Hedon likely becoming level 6 here, with the 4 members of the Bringar becoming level 5. Astrea sends Erebus back to the realm of the gods with Hermes as witness, but just before this, she asks him if he figured out what justice was. He answers that justice is an idea, that it can't be clearly defined. It's something you reach out for and win. Make the impossible possible, that's what makes people heroes. I also can't help but notice that Omori-sensei continues to mention Artemis, hammering in the fact that the goddess herself is canon, even if the Heir of the Orion movie is not. The adventurers of Horario overcome an arduous trial and become stronger for it. Hopefully with the resolve to continue pursuing the strength to one day defeat the Black Dragon, which both Zeus and Hera Familia could not. And that is the motivation for Zard and Alfia, and to an extent Erebus. These events were all orchestrated by these three as a way to test the current adventurers of Horario. They wanted to know if they were strong enough for the trials ahead. They used the guise of wanting to destroy Horario to bring back the old days, where there were not any gods on the surface like in the days of Argonaut. People found the strength within themselves to overcome their struggles without the blessing of Falna. But of course, the plan was flawed. We know that the spirits aided the Argonaut in the Argonaut story, and now they are rarely seen. The Black Dragon and the other great beasts were much stronger than the Minotaur Argonaut defeated. This is the trial that Zard and Alfia decided to hold for Horario, to use what was left of their lives to propel the heroes of tomorrow forward, even at the cost of their own reputations and legacies. Erebus sought to see where justice could take these adventurers. In a way, Erebus used and deceived evil, being part of the evils themselves in order for Horario to become stronger, while naturally also selfishly wanting to be the witness to the struggle between justice and evil, wanting to see the birth of a new hero, but perhaps that hero is already born. In the extra story, we see the plan for Horario's trial being made between Zard, Alfia, and Erebus, and there, we get the reveal of Belle's parents. Yes, the truth of Belle's parents comes to us in the form of a mobile game event. Part of me feels like we'll see another version of this story one day in the form of an actual light novel, or hopefully an anime. Belle's parentage is way too important to only be mentioned in a mobile game. Belle is actually the descendant of members from both Zeus and Hera familia. However, it's not as though Belle inherited any amazing power from his parents, as they were both the weakest of the weak in their respective familias. His father being a mere supporter in Zeus' familia who ran from everything, and his mother, Merteria, being from Hera familia, having the same disease as her twin sister, Alfia, with none of the talent that Alfia possessed. I'm still in shock that Alfia is only 24. She would have been quite young when she dealt the final blow to Leviathan, though Aiz, Tiona, and Tione are all quite young themselves, being level 6, so Alfia's age is not too surprising for this series. Knowing that Alfia is Belle's aunt, it's quite sad that Belle never knew her, and that's amplified in the scene where Hermes asked Belle to pray for the graves he made for Alfia, Zard, and Erebus. He's unknowingly paying respect to his aunt. One might think it's cruel for Alfia to pretty much leave Belle, being his last living relative, but Alfia acknowledges this herself. Knowing what she is doing is cruel. Zard and Alfia wish that this trial will propel the adventurers to create a world where Belle won't have to wield a sword, but Erebus questions them, asking what they would think if Belle were to be involved in the battle that decides the fate of the world itself. In that case, they hope that Belle will become a strong adventurer with the help of those who triumph in the ultimate clash, and become a hero himself. We're really setting the stage for Argonaut-kun, aren't we? Also, with the level 7 Zard and Alfia perishing in this event, it again reopens the can of worms that is the other level 7 that is supposedly outside Arario who can match Ottarl in strength. What are you doing to us, Omori-sensei? Actually, Omori-sensei posted a short little what-if story about Zard and Alfia taking care of Belle if they did not decide to go along with Erebus' plan. It's a fun read, though a really rough translation, but I'm thankful someone took the time to get it to English readers in a readable state. I'll leave a link to it in the video description, and thanks to GigoTaz and some random 995 on Reddit for the translation. Speaking of translations, I'd be lying if I didn't say that some aspects of the translation for this event disappointed me. There are several areas where dialogue does not line up with what's being said in Japanese, particularly during one of the Alfia scenes with Astrea familia, where it seems the audio is a line ahead of the written script, and one point where the same line is repeated twice in a row when something else is clearly being said. Also, it takes a bit of the epicness away from the fight between Zard and Ottarl when you see the word conquer, knowing it's supposed to be conqueror to make grammatical sense, and the script repeats the same mistake multiple times. I also don't know what Ottarl's one powerful wield is supposed to mean. The script clearly needed more than one editing pass or some kind of quality assurance, but I don't want to be too harsh because of the pandemic, along with having to translate the huge scripts for this event. However, even understanding that, it doesn't make the overall script quality less disappointing. I voiced this before, but going through this event, I'd really like to see this animated in some fashion. Readers of the light novel will know that this event would mesh perfectly, having an anime adaptation particularly before a potential season 4 of the main DanMachi series. Argonaut has a good potential for an anime as well, given that there are callbacks to that event in Astrea Record. As much as I enjoyed the event, there are definitely aspects of it that could be cut as some parts dragged on for perhaps longer than it needed to. Vito's character was a nice addition to the story in the sense that it canonizes his character into DanMachi, as he was first introduced as an original character made for the 2018 Christmas event, but overall his character could be cut from this event and there would not be much of an effect on the story at all. If an anime were to happen, I'd expect him not to make it in. An anime could definitely help streamline the story, and I think it could be done well. The Fate franchise can do it with the Babylonia anime and the Camelot movies. Why not DanMachi? Yes, I know DanMachi isn't as big as the Fate franchise, but hey, they put enough money into the mobile game to get these events entirely voiced. Astrea Record is over 10 hours when autoplayed in the story digest. That's an insane amount of voice recording, far beyond that of any one-core anime. Astrea Record is a particularly special event for me because it focuses on the events in the past of Arario, particularly around Astrea familia and the legacies of Zeus and Hera familia. I say this all the time, but if you really enjoyed this event, I encourage you to read the light novels. Season 3 is on the horizon and it'll adapt volumes 9 through 11, so if you really want to, you could wait until it ends and start from volume 12, but I highly encourage you to start from the beginning of the series if you have the chance to. I think you'll appreciate the series so much more with the care that's put into the characters and the world building, a lot of which is skipped in the anime adaptations. I think you'll understand why I care about Astrea Familia so much and why Ryu is my favorite character. At the end of this event, we see that Ryu is still sending letters to Astrea, who is outside Arario, and it seems Hermes is the one in charge of delivering them. In the present day, the other members of Astrea Familia have perished, leaving Ryu as the sole member, still searching for what her justice is and if she even deserves to seek it out, after taking revenge on the Familia responsible for the death of her fallen comrades. It's my hope that one day Ryu will find her answer and be able to face Astrea once more, as she looks towards the future she fought for, alongside the adventurers of Arario 7 years ago. Again, comments on your favorite parts of the Astrea Record event, as I'd like to hear your thoughts. It's a massive event and deserves to be talked about. Like the video, sub to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and join the Discord, and remember that justice comes around, and swear to the sword and wings of justice. This is Lorne, your guild advisor, signing out. Man, I love the acoustic version of Lumiere for the credits. Amazing.